is the most important process under the IBC. What is a CIRP process? So let us understand what is a CIRP process. Who can start a CIRP process? So it can be started by a financial creditor, for example, a bank. It can be started by an operational creditor who could be a supplier of goods and services, or it can be even started by an employee if the dues of employee has not been paid, or it can be also started by the company itself. So a company is under stress and the company wants to start the process of resolution on its own. So the company can also start the process. So who can file the process? You have understood. There are three categories of people: the financial creditor, the operational creditor, and the company itself can file the application. Now the application is filed in the NCLT, that is National Company Law Tribunal. Once the application is admitted, an insolvency professional like me is appointed as an IRP. So IRP stands for Interim Resolution Professional. And once the Interim Resolution Professional is confirmed by the COC, that is the Committee of Creditors, he becomes an RP. Now, it is basically a creditor in control model, wherein the moment an application is admitted for CIRP, the debtors will lose control over the operations of the company, and the company will be now monitored and run by an insolvency professional like me. So the framework is, if you understand, let me explain you the framework like this. You have a board of directors and you have a CEO. So the board of director here in the CIRP process is like the COC. And who is the COC member? Most of the banks who have given the financial loan to the company will become a member of the COC. The COC will act like a board of directors, and the CEO is like the IRP. The IRP will act, or the RP will act like a CEO under the guidance of the board of directors, which is the COC. And all the decisions are taken by a voting power of most important decisions are taken with 66% vote. And how do you determine the voting percentage? Based on your loan given to the company. So suppose you have two banks and bank one has given 50 lakhs rupees, bank two has also given 50 lakh rupees, both will have 50% voting. So you determine the decision based on the voting given by the members of the COC. So this is a very basic understanding I'm trying to give you. Now let us go to the process of CIRP. The process of CIRP starts with a default. We are not concerned whether the account is an NPA or not an NPA. And what is default? When you don't pay your dues, whether the interest or the principal amount of installment on the due date, it is called as a default. Once you have a default, application can be filed in the NCLT. Once the application is admitted, an IRP is appointed and a moratorium process is in place. Once the IRP is appointed, what is moratorium? Basically, you want to focus on the resolution process. So all legal cases against the company, all recovery proceedings against the company is temporarily stalled. A COC is formed with the bankers in the COC. And if a resolution plan is approved by the COC with 66% vote, then the plan is implemented. If the plan is not approved by the COC with 66% vote, the company will go into liquidation. So this is the nutshell, the process of a CIRP under the IBC code. I will take all your queries. I'll try to complete my presentation in 1 hour's time, and the rest half an hour we'll try to take your queries. Now, the first opportunity for an MSME under IBC is pre-packaged insolvency resolution process, or we can call it as PPIRP, pre-packaged insolvency resolution process. This process is only available to an MSME. At this point of time, if you are not an MSME, then this process is not available to you. And how is a pre-pack process different from CIRP? In CIRP, the application is first admitted, then resolution plans are invited. Resolution plans are then discussed and approved by the COC. In pre-pack process, a resolution plan is first prepared, discussed with the COC, and if the COC gives in principle approval of the plan, then you file the plan and the application in the NCLT, and the process starts with a approved resolution plan. So the timeline is very short in a pre-pack process. In a pre-pack process, the total time is 120 days within which the resolution process has to be completed. So let me explain you in pre-pack. If you don't take proactive step of initiating a pre-pack process, and if your loan is in default, then somebody can initiate a CIRP against you. That is why I am saying pre-pack is the last option. For the CD stands for corporate debtor, and that is the MSME unit. The company which is under stress is the corporate debtor or the MSME unit. Can come under, can use this process of pre-pack. Otherwise, the chances is somebody can initiate the CIRP process against you, and you might lose control over your company. So the process of pre-pack is actually a hybrid process. Once you discuss the resolution plan with the bankers, that is an informal process. Once you file the application in the NCLT and the application is admitted, then a formal process starts. So it is a combination of informal and a formal process. And the promoter only is eligible to prepare a resolution plan and start the process with a approved resolution plan. So you can always use the advantages of a pre-pack, and you can get your loan restructured and retain control over your company through a process of pre-pack under the IBC, which is available only for an MSME. So I'm just trying to give you a flavor of the opportunity. We can always discuss one-to-one in greater details if you have any interest in any of these opportunities. So the second opportunity, as I explained to you about CIRP, now there are three kinds of people who can initiate CIRP, as I explained to you. So financial creditor will file an application under Section 7. Financial creditor will file an application under Section 7. Yeah. Okay. So you are not mostly concerned about financial creditor. You are mostly concerned about filing an application against somebody to whom you have supplied the goods and he has not paid to you. So in turn, that company is now in default. So you can always file an application under Section 9 as an operational creditor, because normally what happens in MSME unit will supply certain goods and services to its customers. And if the customer does not pay to you in time, then you can initiate a process of CIRP under Section 9, which will eventually lead to recovery of your dues. And you can also initiate a process of CIRP against yourself by filing an application under Section 10. So the idea is to resolve the financial stress in the company. The idea is not to save the promoter. Idea is to save the company and not the promoter. This is also important to understand. We are not trying to rescue the promoter. We are trying to rescue the company. So these are the three kinds of CIRP to be initiated. The MSMEs will mostly come under Section 9 and Section 10. Now the third kind of opportunity, which is very important, is called as voluntary liquidation. as I explained you, in voluntary liquidation, a default is not required. All you want is to pay off the dues of all your creditors, return the capital to the shareholders, and close the company. So suppose you made a company with a capital of 5 crores to start some manufacturing unit. But later you decide that you change your mind and you are not interested in running the manufacturing unit. Now you want to close the company. So through a process of voluntary liquidation, you can close the company. What will happen? You will basically pay off the creditors. The balance amount will be distributed back to the shareholders and an application will be filed in the NCLT. NCLT will pass an order for dissolution, as a result of which your company will not exist anymore. Company will be dissolved and you can be free from all liabilities with respect to that company. That is a process of voluntary liquidation. Now the fourth opportunity, I even though briefly explained you, that is section 9 of the code, but this is a very important opportunity for every MSME, because as I explained you earlier, IBC is not meant for recovery, it is meant for resolution. But it is being used very successfully for recovery as well. Now what will happen? Suppose you have supplied, you as an MSME has supplied certain goods and services to your customers. Now if the total dues is more than 1 crore, that is the threshold limit which is required to initiate a CIRP process. So if you have supplied goods and services exceeding 1 crore is the total dues outstanding, and the customer is not paying you on the due date, you can issue a demand notice. You can issue a demand notice in Form 3 to the customer, asking the customer to pay the dues in 10 days time. Otherwise, you will start a process of CIRP against that customer. So what will happen once you give a demand notice in Form 3? The customer has two choices. Number one, it can either pay the dues in 10 days time, or it can say that I'm not paying the dues because there is a genuine dispute between us. So the dispute could be like a quality issues, that the quality of goods supplied by you is not up to the mark, and that is the reason he is not paying you, or there could be other reasons. So if there is a genuine dispute, then the process cannot be admitted under IBC, because IBC is not a dispute resolution forum. It is the forum to resolve financial stress and not to resolve disputes, commercial disputes. So in that case, your application cannot be admitted. But if the dispute is frivolous, artificially created, then the dispute will not be entertained by the NCLT and the application can be admitted. So once the application is admitted, then in all probability, that promoter of the company will lose control over the company, because mostly it has been seen that promoters are either not eligible to give a plan, or somebody will give a better plan than the promoter and the company will be acquired by a third party. So that is a very big issue with every promoter. Nobody wants to lose control over its company. So generally we have seen the moment you issue demand notice in Form 3, the other customer will come forward and will settle the dues with you, and as a result of which you will be able to recover your dues. So this is a big opportunity under IBC through which you can recover your dues which are not being paid by your customers. Now, the fifth opportunity which we will discuss is that a company has gone into CIRP. It is under the IBC framework in the NCLT, and you are interested in acquiring that company. You want to grow inorganically, and you are interested in acquiring a company which is under CIRP. then this is a very good opportunity under IBC to acquire a company at a significantly lower value than what you would spend in creating a company from scratch. So what will happen is the process, I am very briefly explaining the process to you. So what will happen in IBC, the process is the resolution professional who is running the company will issue a Form G, which is basically a form for seeking expression of interest from resolution applicants. So our expression of interest is sought by RP in Form G. That is step one. Step two, you will submit your expression of interest to the RP stating that you are interested in acquiring this company. Then the RP will issue a list of final resolution applicants who are eligible to submit a resolution plan. Now, after that, the RP will issue some important documents like the information memorandum, which will contain the details of all litigations in the company. What are the claims which has to be paid by the company? All these details will be available. What are the assets of the company? Everything will be available in the information memorandum. It will also issue a RFRP, which is called as the request for resolution plan, inviting resolution applicants to submit a resolution plan. And it will also issue a evaluation matrix to evaluate the various plans. How will the resolution plans be assessed by the COC? Which plan will be given more weight? Which plan will be given lesser weight? Will be decided based on the evaluation matrix. And then the plans will be submitted before the plans will be submitted by the resolution applicants. The plans, once submitted by the resolution applicants, will be placed before the COC. COC can approve one of the plans. And finally, that resolution plan will also be submitted to the NCLT for its approval. Once the NCLT approves the plan, then you become the eligible person to acquire that company under the IBC framework. So you can acquire the company under IBC through this process, and a lot of companies have been acquired through this process of IBC. To give you an example, Tata's acquired Bhushan Steel, right? Then Lakshmi Mittal acquired SR Steel. So these are big companies acquired by large corporates. Similarly, we have large number of examples in which companies were acquired by different promoters in India. Okay. Now, we are all very familiar with the process of OTS. So you enter into an OTS with a bank. A OTS-like structure is also possible under the IBC framework. Now, let me explain you what is how this OTS work under IBC. So suppose your company is admitted for CIRP and a process of CIRP is going on against you. But you see value in your company, you want to reacquire your company. You can give a settlement proposal under section 12A of the IBC code to the COC. And if the COC believes that your settlement proposal is good, then the application for CIRP can be withdrawn and you can reacquire the company under the IBC framework. So how it will work? So a application for CIRP has already been admitted. You give a settlement proposal to the COC, which is like an OTS proposal. So the settlement can happen before the formation of COC, or it can happen after the formation of COC. If settlement is happening after the formation of COC, then you need 90% vote of the COC to approve your settlement proposal. If 90% vote is obtained, then an application will be filed in Form FA in the NCLT. NCLT will approve the application and the company will be reacquired by you and you will be out of the CIRP process. This is what we mean by a withdrawal of CIRP under 12A, which is akin to an OTS proposal. The next opportunity, let us discuss the next opportunity, is we will discuss what are the special privileges given to an MSME under the IBC. So there are some special privileges which are only available to MSME units and are not available to other large corporates. So let me explain you. There is section 240A of the IBC code, which says that there are two provisions which will not be applicable to an MSME unit. Now let me explain you this. We have a very important section called section 29A in IBC code. Now what is 29A? 29A says certain applicants or resolution applicants will not be eligible to submit a resolution plan under IBC. Who are these people? So for example, suppose you are a promoter and you have defaulted in payment of the loan and you have been designated as a willful defaulter by the banks. Now, if you are permitted to reacquire your company after taking a steep haircut, then that will not be a fair deal. So in that case, what will happen? People will not pay the dues. They will, basically go under the CIRP process and reacquire their own company with steep haircut. So the law does not permit every person to acquire a company through the IBC process. So if you are a willful defaulter, you are not eligible. If your account is an NPA and you are a promoter of that company, you will not be eligible to acquire the company. Or if you are a director and you are disqualified as a director under the Companies Act, then you will not be eligible. Similarly, we have multiple clauses under section 29A, which says these persons will not be eligible to submit a resolution plan. But MSMEs have been given some special privileges. So if you are an MSME and you go under the CIRP process, then even if you are a promoter and your account is under NPA, so that is section 29AC, clause C. Your account is an NPA, you are a promoter, you are still eligible to give a plan if your company is an MSME. That is first exemption given to only for a company which is MSME. Second is, you have also given your personal guarantee to the banks. The banks have invoked your guarantees and you have not been able to pay or fulfill your guarantee obligations. Then again, you are not eligible to give a plan. But if you are an MSME, your guarantees have been invoked, you are still eligible to give a plan. That is clause 29A, clause H. Under clause H, you are still eligible if your company is an MSME. So clause C of 29A and clause H of 29A is not applicable when a company is an MSME. So whether you are the promoter or any person can give a plan for an MSME, even if the account is an NPA or their personal guarantees have been invoked. These two exemptions have only been given if the company is an MSME. And this is a very big exemption. Mostly promoters are able to reacquire their companies through the exemption of these two clauses. Now, what is the logic behind giving this exemption? The government doesn't want that every MSME should go for a liquidation, because normally these are small companies. We do not have too many resolution applicants interested in acquiring these MSME units. Mostly it is seen that promoters are the only resolution applicants who are keen to acquire their own company. So with this exemption, you will be able to acquire your own company under 29A and C. You will be eligible to give a resolution plan. So that is the first point I wanted to explain you about special privileges given to an MSME. Second, as I already explained you about a pre-packed insolvency resolution process earlier, this exemption is only available to an MSME. So pre-packed process is only possible in case of a MSME. So you are an MSME, you are in default, you want to reacquire your company, you can make a resolution plan, discuss informally with your banks that this is a plan I want to give it to you. I will give you 60% of the dues. I will take an haircut for 40% of the dues. Bankers are agreeable to the plan. You file an application in the NCLT, place the resolution plan before the COC, and if your plan is approved by the COC after your application has been admitted, you can reacquire your company through the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process, and this process will be completed within a period of 120 days. The third privilege is given, which is called as the fast track CIRP. So a normal CIRP normally takes 330 days to complete. But a fast track CIRP, which is mostly applicable for small scale industry, is completed in 90 days with one exemption of 45 days. So the process of CIRP for an MSME can be completed in a shorter duration of time as compared to a normal CIRP. Now, I have given one important judgment of the court of the NCLT, wherein the NCLT actually said that if the unit is MSME, then the resolution professional does not need to run the entire process, and if the plan given by the promoter is satisfactory, then the promoters can acquire the company through a CIRP process. So the adjudicating authorities also are supporting the MSMEs to reacquire their unit through the IBC process. So these are the special privileges given to MSMEs and are not applicable for any other enterprise. So, these are the opportunities I wanted to explain you, which is available through the IBC code. Now, I also want to take this opportunity of sharing with you an opportunity which is, even though not connected with the IBC code, that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, but now these days, lot of SMEs are going in for listing of their equity on the stock exchange, which we call it as an SME listing. So you can have an IPO for your SME unit, get your shares listed on the platform available under the BSE and NSE, and you can very successfully raise capital through the capital market. So I also wanted to share this opportunity with you because we are a large firm. We have a separate vertical which looks into the listing of SMEs through the BSE and NSE portal. So let me very briefly explain you about this opportunity. What is this opportunity of listing? Because some of you might be doing a very good business. You are not into any financial stress. You actually need more capital to grow, and you would like to get your shares listed on the BSE and NSE. So we can help you to get your shares listed and raise capital through the capital market. So let me very briefly explain you what is this opportunity. And in next 15 minutes time, I will close my presentation and then we will have a Q&A session. So if you look at chapter 9 of the Securities and Exchange Board of India, Issue of Capital and Disclosure Requirement Regulations 2018. So the chapter 9 gives you the details of the process which has to be followed for an SME listing. Now there are two exchanges for SME listing. One is called as the NSE Emerge platform, which is part of the NSE, and second is BSE SME platform. Both these platforms are available to you to list your equity and raise capital from the capital market. So what are the key highlights of raising capital through the capital market? Number one, let me point the pointer. So the number one, the issue size, every retail applicant has to apply with a minimum size of 1 lakh rupees. The minimum size of application by every retail participant will be of at least 1 lakh rupees. In the main board listing, it is 15,000 rupees, but here every retail participant has to at least apply for equity of a value of 1 lakh rupees. Now, the draft red herring prospectus, that is DRHP, is to be filed in the stock exchange. It has not to be filed with SEBI. So all the observations on the draft red herring prospectus will be given to you by the exchange and not by SEBI. So it is less stringent. Now, your total issued paid up capital after the IPO should not exceed 25 crores of the face value. We are not talking about the premium. We are only talking about the face value. So the face value of your total equity should not exceed 25 crores. Now, in case of the main board listing, IPO grading is compulsory. What do you mean by IPO grading? You rank the IPO in a grade of 1 to 5. And a certain grade is given to your IPO, say a grade of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, which basically indicates what is the quality of your IPO. This grading is not applicable in case of an SME listing. Now, IPO has to be fully underwritten, 100% underwritten. So the merchant banker, which will be working for you, will underwrite the entire issue. If it is not subscribed, then the merchant banker will, or the underwriter will, acquire the equity which has not been subscribed. So your issue will be fully subscribed if you go in for an IPO listing. Now you need at least 50 shareholders or allottees through the IPO process. At least 50 allottees must be there. Now, what about market making? What do you mean by market making? You need a buyer, you need a seller. So a market making will be compulsorily provided by the merchant banker to you. So if there are no sellers, the merchant banker will act as the buyer. So you will have a compulsory market making for your equity shares. Now, in the main board listing, the requirement is you give your quarterly results. But here, the results have to be given half yearly, not quarterly. Now, what is your track record required? The track record is you must have a track record of 3 years of past operations. Now, out of the past 3 years, at least 2 years, you must have generated operating profit. And what is operating profit? That is the EBITDA, earning before interest, depreciation, taxation, and amortization. Your EBITDA should be positive in the last 2 years, out of the last 3 years, at least 2 years, you have positive EBITDA. And your tangible assets should be at least 3 crores. So the requirements are very, very basic, very simple. And if you need capital to grow your business, or you want to reach to a larger part of the country, or you want to export your products, you want to enhance your production, you need more capital, then raising capital through the capital market is a very good option. Now let me give you a little understanding about what has been the trend of IPO SME listing. So I'm giving you the data from NSE. So if you notice, this data pertains to the year 2012 to 2012-13 to the year 24-25, that is the current year. And the orange line indicates the number of SMEs which have been listed. So here, if you notice, 138 companies got listed in the year 2023-24. In the year 24-25, as on date, 29 companies have already been listed through the NSE portal. This is only NSE. Now, a total of 476 companies have got their shares listed during this period. This data is as on 31st May 2024. 476 companies have got their shares listed. They have raised a total of 10,702 crores capital through the capital market. So if you notice this blue bar, this is the amount of capital raised by these SMEs. In the year 23-24, 4,622 crores have been raised by in this year alone. So in 1 year alone, 4,622 crores have been raised by SMEs through the NSE Emerge platform. So the total market capitalization of these 476 companies as on 31st May was 1,45,385 crores. So this will give you a brief idea that if you are having a good business model, your business is viable, and you want to list your shares on the BSE or NSE exchange, then you can also avail of this opportunity of raising capital through the capital market. So, with this slide, I will complete my presentation. And, I thank you very much for your patient hearing. Now, what we will do, we will basically, we can again go back to, if anybody has any query or they want me to go back to any particular slide, I can go back to that slide and we can discuss about any queries you have. Yes, Rakshit.
Sir, we have two question in Q&A box. You can check this. And for chat box question, I can read out for you after that.
Okay. So in the Q&A, I can see Mr. Peter has raised a question. Let me read out. We are MSME trading in PU Petrochemicals, okay? A listed public limited company. A credit customer of ours is delaying payment, replying to mails that payments are being arranged. Credit terms were for 90 days, but now dues are over 150 days. What is the remedy under MSME Act for us to recover the amount? Okay, so this is exactly what I was trying to explain, that Mr. Peter, this is a fit case if the total outstanding with this company is 1 crore plus. You can issue a demand notice in Form 3 to your customer, give him 10 days time. If he does not pay you in 10 days time, you can start a process of CIRP against that company, and that company will in all likelihood come running to you to settle the dues, or otherwise they will lose control over their company. So I think this problem can easily be resolved through the IBC route, and we can discuss offline separately. You will have my number. You can note down my number, which is there on your screen, and we can discuss separately. But this problem can easily be resolved through the process of IBC, provided the total outstanding as on date is more than 1 crore or at least 1 crore. Okay. Now the second question from Peter is the amount of due is 50 lakhs. Okay. So the problem is that we have actually, given representation to the government that the threshold limit for an MSME should be reduced. But as on date, the threshold limit is 1 crore. So if your threshold amount is less than 1 crore, then unfortunately you cannot initiate a process under IBC. You will have to take recourse to other provisions of law. Under IBC, you cannot start a process if your total dues is less than 1 crore. I'm extremely sorry, Peter, your amount is less than 1 crore, so then you will not be eligible. Okay, so Mr. Vinod Kumar has raised a question myself, Vinod, how can we impress upon our bankers for additional term loan? So I don't see any problem, in raising additional term loan from the banks, because now, what the problem is. Every bank wants to, give larger loans, provided your servicing is good and your account is standard and you have been servicing your debt on time. Then I don't see any challenge in your raising any capital or any loan. Even, CDB, which is the specialized institution for MSMEs, they have various schemes of lending money to MSMEs. So we can, discuss separately what challenges you are facing, and we can also assist you in raising debt from banks and CDB if you need more term loan. Okay. So Peter says, thank you for the clarification. So these are the questions, which I have in the Q&A. Now I think, sir, we can go to the chat box.
Yes, sir. I'll read out for you.
Okay, sir.
First question is, could you elaborate on evaluation metrics?
Okay, fine. So let me do one thing. You can see the presentation, Akshay?
Yes.
Okay. So let me explain what is evaluation matrix. This is a good question. So let me explain what is the evaluation matrix. So evaluation matrix has two parts. First part is called as the quantitative factors. Second part is called as the qualitative factors. So for example, to give you an example, suppose in the quantitative marks, total marks is given as 80 marks for quantitative parameters, and 20 marks has been given for qualitative parameters. In the 80 marks, you can have 40 marks for somebody who is paying you at least 60% of the total outstanding debt. So somebody who pays at least 60% of the total outstanding debt in, say, 30 days time will get 40 marks. And proportionately, the marks will be reduced if you pay lesser amount in more period of time. So naturally, somebody who pays larger dues in a shorter duration will get more marks, and somebody who pays smaller dues in a larger duration of time will get less marks. So that way you will be able to evaluate the plans and rank them in order of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, to give you qualitative parameters, say, what is your credit profile? What is your credit rating? What has been your track record of resolution? You can have marks given to qualitative parameters, and basically the total marks based on the qualitative and quantitative parameters will decide your total marks. And usually the applicant which has the highest marks as per the evaluation metrics will get the opportunity of acquiring the company under the CIRP. Because it is possible to have multiple resolution plans and multiple resolution applicants. You can give the company or you can approve only one plan. So you have to decide how you will evaluate the plan, how you will give the marks, how you will decide which plan is better, which plan is worse through an evaluation matrix. I hope I've been able to explain you very briefly what is evaluation matrix. Yes, Akshay.
So just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our next question is, sir, by mistake we registered as solo proprietor, as director's PAN card is given through. We have been LLP since 50 years. Now in MSME dispute arbitration, the system is not allowing to raise our claim. They are asking to re-register, but we will uh, lose our right for arbitration.
I'm honestly not clearly understanding what is the question. But the point is that this is a question pertaining to filing of claims or initiating an arbitration, because an arbitration process is not under the IBC. However, if you have to file a claim, then claim can always be filed by you, irrespective of, yeah.
Yeah, this question is related for arbitration, and he
Okay.
is already a 50-year-old LLP firm.
Okay.
but he registered himself as a solo proprietor.
But if you are an LLP, how can you register as a sole proprietor? This is actually not very clear.
So, Mr. PR, means you can contact to Vikramji separately after the session.
Or if it is possible to unmute him and he can, raise his question separately, that could be one of the process. But I'm not very clear what is he trying to ask. We can go to the next question in the meantime. Let us understand if he can be unmuted. We can speak to him directly.
Sure. So our next question is 60% of dues or resolution plan value.
So, what is the question, but?
This is he is only type. Mr. Yogesh, if you just provide detail about your question, I'll try to unmute you. Just give me a second. Mr. Yogesh.
I think, let me read one question I can see of Mr. Pankaj Kumar. He has raised an important question. Can a number of operational creditors jointly apply for initiation of CIRP if the total amount of debt combined exceeds 1 crore, but individually defaults are less than 1 crore? Unfortunately, Pankaj, that is not possible. That is not possible under IBC. You as an operational creditor must have a default or an outstanding dues of 1 crore or more than 1 crore, then only you are eligible. But what I personally believe, Akshay, through your association also, you can make a representation to the ministry that for MSMEs, the threshold amount should be less than 1 crore, because otherwise what happens, a lot of MSMEs are not able to initiate a process of recovery under the IBC process.
Sure, sir. We will take up this issue
Yeah.
and try to fix a meeting with them personally so that we can address this in detail. Sir, we have a question from Mr. Pirveen Kumar. What is the status of PPIRP application filed so far? Whether any successful PPIRP application could you refer to study?
Okay, very good. So, we have about 3 or 4 cases of a successful resolution through PPIRP, pre-pack process. Unfortunately, this pre-pack process has not been very successful. And the primary reason is people are not aware about pre-pack. They don't know what is pre-pack, number one. So unless and until an MSME is aware of something called as pre-pack, because he is only eligible to initiate a process of pre-pack. If you don't know what is a pre-pack, naturally you will not be able to use the process. So we have actually, requested, the regulators, and we have actually requested the ministry that you should run some educational programs for MSMEs, and you can educate them about the advantages of pre-pack so that, they can use this process of pre-pack. So what you have to do is you have to understand how the process of pre-pack will run. You have to first make a resolution plan, approach your bank, discuss the plan with the bank. The bank has to give you in principle approval that I'm okay with your plan. And then you have to file an application for initiating a pre-pack process against your own company. Then the plan is submitted to the bank, and bank has to finally approve that your plan. If that happens, then you can acquire your company or reacquire your company with an haircut, and you can very successfully run the company thereafter. So there are few examples, but not many. About 3 or 4 companies have been only resolved through pre-pack.
So next question is, could you explain the group insolvency procedure?
Okay. So group insolvency, even though it has not been enacted in the IBC code, but it has been used in a few cases as a test case by the NCLT. And the best example is the case of Videocon. So what is important to understand in a group insolvency is that suppose, let me give you an example of a real estate. You will understand why a group insolvency is required. Suppose you have company A, which owns the land, and you have company B, which is the developer of that land. Now, company B, which is the developer, has taken loan to develop the project. And company B goes for a CIRP. Now, land is in company A, and the company which has gone into CIRP is company B. How will you resolve company B without attaching company A with company B? You have to take up the resolution process of the landowning company and the developer company together so that the stress in the company can be resolved, because anybody who wants to acquire will also like to acquire the land. Otherwise, only a developer company cannot be resolved. So in group insolvency, we are trying to group the companies together and resolve the group as a whole. So in what happened in Videocon? In Videocon, there were about 14 companies which went into insolvency. Every company is using the brand Videocon. Every company is using common office space. Every company is using same set of employees. They have similar set of customers. One company is providing raw material to the other company. The other company is making an intermediate product and supplying it to the other company. So what was happening, if you want to resolve one company and leave out the other company, no resolution was possible, because one company is only manufacturing a raw material. The second company is manufacturing only the finished product. So what the court did in this case, 13 companies were merged into one group process, and the 13 companies were resolved together through a process of group insolvency. So I hope you understand, in group insolvency, we're not trying to resolve a company, we are trying to resolve an enterprise, a group of companies which are interconnected with each other in such a way that a resolution is only possible if all the companies are resolved together. That is basically a group insolvency.
Next question is, could you explain the fast track CIRP eligibility, or it is as per the MSME definition?
So basically, it would mostly be as per the MSME definition, because it says basically, if you are a small entity, which is basically within the definition of MSME. Now, fast track also has not been a very successful tool, because the normal CIRP we have to complete in 330 days. Now we are not able to complete a normal CIRP in 330 days. So naturally, if we are not successful in completing a normal CIRP, then naturally we are not inclined to start a fast track. So fast track is, it will still take some more time to become, popular, because at this point of time, we need to increase the bandwidth of the courts, and the law is also evolving. People are also learning. So fast track is ultimately, the objective is that small companies should be resolved quickly. It should not take 3 years and 4 years time to resolve a small company. We want to resolve the company in a period of 90 days with one exemption of 45 days. That is 135 days we want to resolve the company and get out of the CIRP process. So the idea is to shorten the period of CIRP for a small company. That is the basic understanding of a fast track process.
Next question is, sir, whether valuation of assets of the corporate person get conducted during voluntary liquidation process.
Okay. So in the voluntary liquidation process, suppose you have certain assets, like say a land or a plant and machinery, some assets are there, then you will have to first do a valuation, and then you have to start the process. You have to give the valuation report to the liquidator who is appointed to run the voluntary liquidation process. You have to also give an affidavit stating that you are not starting the process to defraud any person. You have sufficient assets to pay off your liabilities. So a valuation is done at the very inception stage when the process is started, and then the process starts with a voluntary liquidation.
So these are the questions I can see in chat box and the Q&A. And if you would like to means add on in your presentation, in your speech,
Okay.
means how can SW means serve the industry in insolvency and give the better solution for
Okay.
them.
So, let me, you can see the slide number 5, na, Akshay?
Yes.
Let me elaborate this slide more. I was not sure, how much time we will have. Since we have some time,
We
let
have
us,
20 minutes, sir.
yeah, so let us discuss a little bit more about, some of these processes which we have discussed, because I had to, run through the processes. So what I will do, let me, go back to the process of CIRP, and let me explain. Here, mostly MSMEs are operational creditors because they have supplied certain goods and services to large corporates. Say you are supplying auto components to Maruti Udyog or to any other big company. You are completely dependent on your customer for your survival. That is the typical fate of a normal MSME, that you are supplying the goods and services to one or two or a few industries. And if these industries don't pay you in time, then you will come under the stress. So what you need to be cognizant is, if your total outstanding is more than 1 crore, you should immediately, issue demand notice and ensure that the company pays your due in time. Number one. Number two, lot of customers can create a fictitious dispute. So please remember, when you issue a demand notice, and if your customer is disputing payment after the issue of demand notice, then normally that is a fictitious dispute. So you have to be aware of your rights under the IBC code. And if you if I share the data with you, almost 55% of the applications have been filed by operational creditors under the IBC. Almost 55% of the total cases have been filed by operational creditors, and 45% of the cases have been filed by the financial creditors. So operational creditors are very active in filing the application. You as an operational creditor is not even required to name an insolvency professional. The court can appoint somebody as an insolvency professional if you do not know anyone who can become an insolvency professional. So that is, for CIRP. Now, if you understand this process, which is, on your screen, that default is the important criteria to start a process. NPA is not a requirement. A lot of people believe that if the account is not an NPA, you cannot start a process under IBC. In IBC, NPA has no significance. Once there is a default in payment, the process can be started under the IBC, and you can file your application. And if the application gets admitted, then the IRP will take over the company. Just give me 1 second. I was on mute. Yeah. So what I was saying that the process is very simple, very straightforward. Akshat, I am audible, na?
Yes, sir. Continue, please.
Okay. So the process is very simple, very straightforward. NPA is not a criteria. You have to only see that there is a default. And once there is a default and the total dues is more than 1 crore, you can start the process. Now, for pre-pack, I will always advise that if you are under stress and you want to restructure your account, then pre-pack is a far better process than OTS. Because in OTS, you can only basically discuss with your bank. You cannot take a haircut for any other dues like government dues or operational creditor dues. In OTS, you can only reduce the financial debt. But in a pre-pack, you can actually seek a haircut on all kinds of dues, whether it is a bank financial dues or it is an operational dues or government dues. You can seek dues and haircut on all categories of dues. So that is, a very big advantage for a pre-pack process. You can restructure your account in a way that your unit becomes viable. So CIRP, I hope I have already explained to all of you. Voluntary liquidation is also something, which is very, very interesting, that whenever you believe you want to close the company and you have the assets to pay off your liabilities, then this process can always be used in closing down unviable companies or companies where you are not interested to continue running the company. Now, recovery of dues, I have already explained. This is a very, very powerful tool for you to recover your dues using the IBC mode. And the only problem is that the dues should be at least 1 crore. Otherwise, this has been a very, very effective tool for especially MSMEs in recovering their dues. This I have already explained to you that you can acquire a company through the IBC process at a substantial lower value than its fair value, because normally under the IBC you are able to get good value for your money. And if your company has gone into the IBC, you can come out of the IBC through a settlement route, which is section 12A, and you can also reacquire your company, even though your company has gone into CIRP. That is also possible. Privileges I have already explained you. And capital market opportunities. Nobody has unfortunately asked any question on the capital market, but I think this is one opportunity which every promoter must exercise and explore if they believe that they are running a successful business, they need more capital, and they are interested in basically improving their debt equity ratio so they can raise equity through the capital market. So let me stop my presentation here, and in case we have any questions, so we can discuss. Otherwise we can close the session.
I think we don't have any further questions, sir.
So what I can request the participant is, you can note down my number. If you have any problem, then you can always message me in person and we can discuss and we can
Sir, you are on mute.
So I was just wondering if people have any other question, because we did not have too many questions.
People are asking for your PPT, sir.
That we will provide, sir. I will email it to you.
Sure, sir.
And you can email in the PPT to all the participants, Akshat.
Sure,
Because
definitely.
people
And
will.
thank you very much for your time, sir, and your valuable insight. And thank you very much to all the participants to join us today for this informative session. And if you have any query related to the insolvency or any tax related query or consulting required, you can contact with the Vikram ji or SW team. They will help you in all the way. And our next session will be on 27, which is on SME IPO. So see you on that day. Please, hopefully you all are already registered for the same. Uh, okay, bye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Akshit. Okay, thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you.